All right, we are live again. I am, as usual, taking the first minute or so to post the live stream around. Again, I've been directing people to X/Twitter, so I seem to get more engagement there than anywhere else. Let me do like a LinkedIn reply to the standalone posts too. Guess why not? All right. Covered our bases there. And may just, I'll repost it on Twitter too. Why not? Okay. So the topics for today, I want to talk some about native tokens. It's sort of especially topical at this moment for us, but I want to speak in some generalities too. There'll be a couple metals related updates, kind of related to experience that we've had recently. And yeah, we'll round it out with more AI talk too. It's been a crazy thing to watch in the last X number of years, and more and more I try to incorporate AI into my day-to-day workflow, and so there'll be some updates there. Yes, thanks everybody for joining. So native tokens. There's in some ways, so let me start with half of a definition. I guess a token is really crypto native if it requires, in some ways, no interaction with kind of the legacy world to exist. So obviously, Bitcoin is kind of the canonical example, right? In fact, it was sort of the whole point. The exercise was to create something scarce and of value that had a sort of economic rationale behind it and no dependency on the legal system, legacy financial system, etc. And that was quite impressively achieved, right? And to some extent, I think the question of the existence of native tokens is pretty close to the question of decentralization at all, but they're not maybe 100% the same thing. Like I would say, Ethereum as a whole is a decentralized system that's host to, in essence, one native token and then many non native tokens. And it does seem like it was required to me. I think it is maybe possible in some cases to do blockchain native systems that don't exactly have a native token. I'll go into that shortly, but that for adoption's sake, you may still need them. There's also, I think people have some degree of like token fatigue, right? There's so many of them. It became super simple and sometimes lucrative to launch a token, especially kind of in the current pump.fun era. We've gone through waves of there being lots and lots of tokens issued. And yeah, I think, like I said, there's probably a little bit of fatigue there. And they do a lot of things, right? Like they are, of course, a native means of storing and transferring value. Maybe I shouldn't use the word native. Um, Tokens do that in general, and sometimes, but native to me means that they are kind of core to the economics of the blockchain system itself. So where so like Ether being the native token for Ethereum, obviously there being lots of activity in other tokens, it's required for fees and whatnot, and so that is a real distinction. But I think I want to talk about the kind of popularity aspects, which is let me share my screen really quickly here. Oh man, there we are. Um, Here we go. This is one of the Twitter accounts I follow. Also, a friend of mine, Ajit, goes by Chain Yoda. He says, "Community doesn't bring moon. Moon brings community. SBF understood this." All right, I'll leave it there. Um, Obviously, kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but the I do think going back to Bitcoin, the belief in the economic value of the asset was the thing that drove activity, right? So, um, miners went to enormous effort to um, mine Bitcoin, get the software running, sometimes build data centers, dedicated hardware to mine the Bitcoin, et cetera. And that effort, of course, ratchets up with the value of the rewards from the system over time, right? So it is an economic calculation people are making, and it kind of did set the standard going forward that people expect compensation for the economic activity they're contributing to, and not all of it is meant to be sort of like right then up front. So I think while it's the case that some miners mined the Bitcoin and then spent it on expenses, like that's perhaps increasingly required as you're in a competitive market with lots of other miners, and you've got big energy bills and all that sort of thing. I suspect many, at least early on, were betting on the long-term value of Bitcoin as well, and that these sort of like economic ties are often the way to coordinate human behavior over the long term. So people can be sort of excited about a project for a short period of time without any form of compensation. They're much happier if they were involved early and were compensated for the time and or risk that they took, right? And thinking through again popular projects, most popular blockchain industry crypto projects, most have a certain amount of speculation as a usage driver. The big successful counterexample being like stablecoins, which we've talked about before. But there are a couple this cycle. Let's say previously OpenSea, famously did not launch a token, at least in the heyday. I think they've done an airdrop of sorts recently. I haven't been paying that much attention. They, great marketplace. I think they were still monetizing the speculation desire, right? Where there was a new medium of exciting new shareable assets, and some of them would really have good financial returns, and that was a lot of the excitement about the space. There's so both a collection impulse and a financial speculation impulse drove OpenSea. Pump.fun, I'd say super popular. They make quite a lot of income for a while. I think it slowed down some. but so while they don't have a native token themselves, they were sort of enabling everyone to as well. Um, and I think another good example of a no token project, Polymarket, obviously big breakout success, super popular in the election season. I would say seemingly, I haven't looked up the numbers. I'm sure volumes are down some since then, but I think they are staying fairly well in the public consciousness. And so yes, again, no native token, but it was the human desire to bet on world events that they're kind of facilitating. So, I think the speculation impulse remains kind of one of the biggest usage drivers. Another good example, actually. So, the interesting things that are going on in the last couple of months. Some of the DeFi, call them governance tokens, have actually been beating even like Bitcoin, as they've had pretty good protocol revenues, that in some cases are just a show of confidence, but in others are, these are decentralized votes that approve this, but there are the sort of retained earnings of the protocol are being used to buy back and sometimes buy back and burn the tokens in circulation. And that is causing the token price to go up, as one would imagine that it would. And so are they native tokens? Not exactly in the way that Ether or Bitcoin is, but they also are, right? They are the means of coordinating sort of the community's economic interests as regards the functioning of these protocols, which again exist on blockchains that have different lower level capabilities. And let's take like a MakerDAO as an example. They did you sort of needed Ether before you could do MakerDAO. I believe first iteration MakerDAO, and I think maybe Athena works like this now. The stable dollars that were minted on chain came purely as issued sort of as collateral against Ether itself, right? And so you had to have some native value mechanism to be able to make sort of derivative value on top, which again, the mechanism was you sort of locked up Ether and then you could borrow dollars against it, in effect. And so there remained that bootstrapping question, like how do you get a store of value within the system that doesn't touch the banking system at all? In practice, over time, they would also take non-native assets, at least in the MakerDAO case, and probably most of the DeFi platforms do so. Probably, obviously, USDT Tether is the biggest and maybe the most liquid for this reason. If you input USDT into the MakerDAO, I guess now Sky apparatus, there are some advantages as it's price stable, much more price stable against the dollar. So maybe you may unlock more borrowing power by doing so. And so at some level, you kind of need both. And I think there's a sort of philosophical purity for like a Athena, which I believe it just still takes ETH and ETH only. And they've lots of different products they've built. But that also, I'm always a pragmatic creature. People live kind of pegged to the dollar, so you probably want to be able to do that, at least have the option. So yes. So this all said, I'm again pro native token. And as some folks know, we've been running a points program for some time, so we would sort of made that decision in the past. that there would be a token, and it is functioning. Actually, ours, it is something. It is both behaving like a DeFi governance token and a crypto native token, like a network native token. Excuse me. Um, and but yeah, so to reiterate, we've had a live points program for some time, and we're going to the next step pretty soon. Pretty soon, like on the order of magnitude of let's say less than 3 months, hopefully, to making it more of a reality. So um, there'll be kind of like a friends and family token generating event again in the near term, not super huge, mostly about participation, and we'll have points unlocking at this time. And again, the purpose is to start to get the protocol in the hands of people that are not the company itself. Um, and the main mechanism to do that, it seems, is other than people that are contributing sort of TVL directly through um, our staking mechanism, is to just get the token out there. And I believe that if you have the sort of right holders of the token, that is the path to building the ecosystem out long term and align people's goals towards one, making the thing a success, and two, making it decentralized, right? So we have in places things like founder multi-sigs, et cetera, that say admit new validators, or sometimes we have gates on listed assets or assets that are eligible for collateral. Things like that will be controlled by the governance token holders instead. We, as discussed in the past, also have a native stable token, which we will encourage certain types of fees to be paid in. So the actual transacting activity happening in something stable against the US dollar. By the way, I believe I think the Gnosis chain works this way, where they've got bridged DAI as their main fee mechanism. And they definitely have another token. I'm not exactly sure what the mechanism does. But this is not sort of without precedent. But the point being, people still seem to transact mentally pegged to USD, if not directly pegged to it. We aim to allow people to kind of have assets in whatever form they like. We've been popular with like the gold bug personality, folks who have gold, want to rotate into crypto, or have crypto and want to rotate into precious metals. The precious metals are sort of, gold in particular is at kind of both an all-time high from a price perspective, but actually DEX trading volumes hit an all-time high quite recently. I haven't checked in the last couple of days, but there's starting to get to be real popularity for metals on chain, and we've been sort of a part of that. And so we're kind of seeing the formation of a virtuous cycle starting to happen. And as I guess the kind of meme narrative has faded a little bit, people are heading towards practicality. And so this has been RWAs, kind of RWA phase 2, and like DeFi style protocols with revenue have been the winners of sort of the air coming out of some of the more intensely speculative aspects of the last year or two, basically. So in any case, still time to participate in the points program. We will keep it active at least until the friends and family sale. Maybe some form of it will survive beyond that. Please stay tuned there. Get in touch, and we are, again, really the goal is to get people involved. Although I do tend to think that people who are exposed somewhat financially to the success and are good we get the best. Again, we saw this with Bitcoin, we saw this with Ethereum. The holders of the asset end up building the ecosystem, right? And uh, so I've kind of resisted the token thing for some years, and realized that it is actually essential to making these systems work. And so we've been on this path for a year plus now, but really happening more seriously very soon. So again, jump into the points program now. Can uh, follow us on Twitter, jump in our Telegram, and learn more details on that. Good time to run a validator as well if you want to get in touch. And again, sale coming quite soon at a friends and family level. So participation open to all, but we're not trying to bring in an enormous amount of money this time. It's really more to set the seeds for what's to come. All right. When token soon. So on to some of my other announcements. I've been running a little bit behind the activity that we have going. It's been so fast paced, I guess, that sometimes we don't even, it doesn't feel like I have time to really announce well the things we do, which maybe is a bad idea. Maybe, it's almost like I should announce it first, but I've been really pleased at the level of activity, the pace at which we're shipping of late. One of the things we've had in the works for a while is our first centralized exchange integration. So we listed our Gold ST token, which is again one of our more popular ones, which previously had been only accessible via directly our marketplace. So you could you can actually deposit physical gold, but you can also just purchase on our side. However, we wanted to get a handle on what it looks like to get a token listed on a centralized exchange. We had a good conversation with the folks at CoinStore previously, and so we did activate this effort some time ago, and it went live a few weeks ago. So let me just show everybody what this looks like. Hang on. Here we are. All right. So here is the CoinStore exchange. So everything on CoinStore, or largely everything, is actually paired with USDT. I don't know that they are always accessible to Americans. We've had certain people actually work with them directly, but in the case that you go there, basically you deposit USDT as one of the key steps, and you kind of get a credit in your account. And then it's sort of available to trade. So that was an interesting model, whereas like the US exchanges, there's often a link bank account flow. I think even Binance was like this at the beginning, where everything was built on USDT. And so that's the pair, Gold ST to USDT. It does I was kind of impressed by this, like 60, 70K of nightly volume. The price pegging is basically against just the spot price of gold. You can see there's some depth in the markets there today, but it really all works, and it's as you work in the space, lots of people have done centralized exchange listings, so it's kind of late coming for me. Obviously, I lived through plenty of them. I remember, early on, there was some question of like whether Coinbase would list Ether. They got lots of demand to do so, and obviously they did. I'm sure it was good for them. But I never really done it myself. And so we're working with their tech team for some period of time. It was an interesting process, but mostly API driven, for how they get their system to place orders. So you can move the Gold ST. I've done this. testing from their exchange, you can actually withdraw to our network and vice versa. Um, and it's just pretty exciting to see, right? Like there it is. There's this thing we made. You could trade it primarily and secondarily within our network for a while, but it is on a popular third-party interface at this time. So more to come there. I think it's often the case that you just have to experience stuff. There's not The crypto world is so fast moving, and there are playbooks, but you kind of have to validate the pieces of them yourself. And cool to do a centralized exchange listing. So we've been through that. You can go trade some gold ST right now, and get in touch and let us know how it is. Yeah, very, very exciting for me. Continuing on, this is not the only metal related trading announcement that I'm making, in this live stream here. So another thing, as I've alluded to a few times, I'm getting to the point where I'm decent at vibe coding. And the great thing about vibe coding, it can be frustrating too, right? It's not like a panacea. But the great thing about it is that it feels sort of more like managing, maybe micromanaging a human, than it does coding, right? And it allows me, like, if it's like a meeting that I'm participating in, but not the primary speaker or something like that, I can kind of keep tabs on what the AI agent is doing and keep giving it instructions and still be present for the meeting, which is kind of really remarkable. And so this means I'm out of retirement, coding wise. I haven't shipped big new features for us just yet. I still feel like I'm working a little bit on the periphery, but this one was pretty cool in that it's a real capability that I got a lot of learning out of creating myself. So what I did, I'll go to the repo first, I guess. So I've been trying to understand better how DEXs are working out there. So I've definitely used them plenty for swapping purposes. So sorry about that. Let me just share my screen really quickly. So I've used DEXs plenty to swap tokens. And so sometimes it's the easiest way to get, like the centralized exchanges have certain coverage that that may not be what you're hoping for. Like in some cases, I have friends who have a serious crypto company and have a project, but the token's not on Coinbase or Gemini or whichever ones I might have an account on, right? And so it's sometimes the easiest path. There is no permission step to get a token listed on a DEX, but the mechanics are like kind of complicated and a little bit wonky as a result. I'll go into some of the specifics shortly, but so here's a project that was written entirely by. So I think I edited no lines of this project directly. I think in all cases, it was written by various AI models. So I've had good results. So this is done with Cursor. I've had good results with Claude 3.7 in Cursor and GPT 4.1. Gemini 2.5 has been okay. So sometimes I switch between models. Like I get frustrated with one and switch to another, which is a great thing about this industry right now. It's in a state of strong competition, and the interface is abstracted nicely. You just give it text so that you can just kind of compare them against each other and switch it up as you go. So also this documentation is generated by the AI as well. So the idea is as follows. Basically, we already have tokenized silver, and in fact even did it before tokenized gold, available on Mercata. And I wanted to see, we've done a couple experiments like this, how to tap into Ethereum native liquidity for the silver token, um, both maybe to find new purchasers of it, but also, if in the case where people want to get out of their silver token without physically redeeming it, could that be done natively on Ethereum? We can bridge too, right? So we do have a lot of bridging capability for folks who are already on Mercata, but I kind of just wanted to see how this all works. So that's why it's called. So we've got Silv ST on Mercata, our network, and eSilv ST indicates that it's on Ethereum. Eventually, they'll be bridging back and forth if we keep pushing in this direction. But I just built it all out on Ethereum. So the design is basically, so the AIs are pretty familiar with like ERC20 and Open Zeppelin contracts and all that sort of thing. So I just kind of described what I wanted. That we've already handled the physical part and the insurance and all of that of the tokenization through partners of ours, and so we sort of just needed the burn and mint capability. But also there are some pricing action and details that are interesting with silver. So basically, I wanted to create two things: a pool that on Uniswap that has the Ethereum and silver price pair in effect, or sorry, token pair, and I wanted it to try to get the right price. What I mean by this is, so Uniswap pools, to first order, the price is actually just the kind of, in a sense, the ratio of the tokens in the pool itself, right? It's very annoying. So the way it works, is and it kind of makes sense that it has to be that way. Like if you go back to the native token discussion, what should the price of a native token be if it's just a thing that exists from the outside world, or sorry, independent of the outside world? How could you decide what the price is? And I guess for any asset, in a sense, like the ratio of buying demand and selling demand sort of sets the price of it. And that is kind of what is happening on Uniswap. But I didn't appreciate, so it actually makes it a little tricky to see what will happen with a token that should have an external, like a real world asset that should have a price peg. And so I think at large enough volumes, if you will, so if it's a token that's kind of widely distributed with a lot of liquidity and a known price, the Uniswap mechanism will get the price right, probably, right? But the mechanism is kind of always some amount of arbitrage, basically. So let's suppose the thing gets the price wrong. What would happen is that you could buy a bunch of the silver tokens for the wrong price, and then you go redeem them for the actual silver, and you then have an instant profit, right? And so most price stability mechanisms are like that. I've realized, crypto people especially, mostly don't want to hold the physical metals. Sometimes they do. I think your gold bug personality probably does, and probably is sort of worried, about custodians and the business collapse of the custodian or what have you. But crypto native people kind of are pretty token comfortable and maybe are more interested in direct ownership but convenience. And so I also built, by I mean the AI built out a kind of convenience contract, the silver trading contract, which takes in, and by the way, I had this idea in my head, but I sort of worked back and forth with it as a thought partner to kind of come to this design, um, which for convenience purposes would allow you to trade a small amount of bit of ETH and eSilv ST. And so just periodically updating the prices, et cetera. And it's a little bit different than a pool, right? The pool, you kind of throw the assets in and the price is inferred. This is a separate contract, smart contract, where you just trade it at the agreed price. Um, but and it's just there so that there's some easy way to encourage people to rebalance the liquidity. The unfortunate thing about the silver trading contract is, at least to start, all of the liquidity comes from the creator, whereas the pools, the liquidity can come from elsewhere. Um, but it also highlighted to me the need, um, getting a crypto asset elsewhere. The its behavior is not always what you would expect. So as a, for instance, we did have a little bit of trading activity on this pool. So you can create liquidity uh, directly in the interface on Uniswap. I've done it through the APIs too. So you see there's some buys, there's some sells, but not a whole lot. You kind of have to market the thing. Um, and not a ton of total holders. We haven't marketed this just yet. But the tricky thing also is, for it to get the price right, the this is I don't know why people just keep calling me. It's very annoying. This is this started in the pandemic. It's constant phone calls all day, and it's just still here. Um, the So yeah, so you either, to get the pool to have the right price, either need to be like putting liquidity in yourself or having some other mechanism for it to find the right price, which again, as the thing gets popular, does happen. Um, but in the short run, it can be kind of strange if the price is off, basically. And so I guess I've also learned, again, through the Coinstore experience. Of course, they use market makers. You kind of need someone monitoring things, so the behavior is what you expect. Might be interested in having greater botting over time of that activity, and it might be a good thing also because there can be fees associated with this stuff, and so if it were more automated, maybe the markets just work better and cheaper for the end user. But so of course, like, just being on Ethereum, just being on Uniswap is no guarantee of liquidity. It's kind of proportionate to how much is in the pool, in effect, but also things like, is the price right, which is tricky to achieve, assuming you want exposure at roughly the spot price to silver. That's not natively what it does. So that's why there's that second contract in there. But yeah, so take a look. This allows you to actually reproduce the whole thing. If you have if you're on Sepolia or the mainnet, you can just take all the code and deploy it from the command line and or inside Cursor. And it works. These silver, it is actually redeemable in 100-ounce increments. We've redeemed a decent amount of silver directly from Mercado. And again, all written by AI. I wouldn't use huge quantities of funds at this time. We did a bunch of people read the code. And the AI is reasonably good at just sticking to existing standards. And so the Open Zeppelin contracts were maybe very lightly modified. But I'm stunned that it could do this. Like, both, it was useful in the design phase, and it did all the deployment work too. Like, you can get it to locally sign stuff for you and send that off. It knows blockchain, it knows Ethereum concepts pretty well. And kind of took me down this making a pool with a token similar to things we've done before, but net new and different, which is crazy, so more vibe coding ahead. It's nice to be out of retirement. I don't know that I may actually make really core stuff at some point instead of more peripheral experimentation. But it's good to be back. Right? And on that note, appreciate everybody's who's out there listening this Monday afternoon, evening. Do get in touch with us. Be a validator. Stake some real world and high quality crypto assets on chain. If you're interested in the friends and family sale, it is forthcoming quite soon. So it will be open to everybody, but better if folks get in touch so we have a sense of overall demand, etc. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and check out that repo. It's again, the AI is really remarkable right now. Have a good one.